Come on, you can.
All right.
Okay. And let me share my screen. All right, see you, Luanda. Thank you. There we go. And it looks like we have a quorum. I'm going to keep letting people in. And we're ready whenever you are, Ashley.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's GOTeam meeting. We're going to follow the agenda today, which Jay just posted on the board, and it has been emailed to everyone and has been publicly noticed. I'm going to remind everyone that this is a meeting of the GOTeam, but we do have public comment today. Kim, did we get any comments at all?
I don't think so, but I went ahead and put the Google form in the chat. So if there's anyone on the call that would like to comment, it's just basically what's your name. So we can just have a record of it. Hopefully it works.
Perfect. And just so I know, this is my first meeting with the public comment. Protocol wise, we go through our agenda here, and after the announcements, there is a time for public comment. So that is when, if someone is going to make a comment, they would comment, correct?
Correct. Do you have Ashley, do you have like a little script that you read prior to a public comment? Typically it says,
no, Diane about that.
Okay.
She did, Diane Jacoby with the GOTeam. And she said there is no script for the public comment, but that I just follow the general meeting script and go through the protocol.
Right. Just reminding people that typically it needs to be submitted 24 to 48 hours in advance, but we can do a time of 2 minutes total and no responses from the GOTeam.
Perfect. That is no responses from the GOTeam. That's what you just said, right? We're just receiving the comments. Got it. Okay.
Yeah, I think there's supposed to be comments versus like questions, right, Jay?
I don't know. I just know from the past, typically you have 2 minutes like you would a board meeting and you speak.
Right.
Board members don't engage, but we take the feedback and we can put it into action on any of our meetings.
Perfect. Thanks for that clarification. All right, so I'm going to call the meeting of the Morris Brandon GOTeam to order. And our first order of business is to call roll. So Kimberly, will you please now take the roll?
Yes. Just knowing what time we started the meeting.
Yep, sorry.
Okay, so
three.
Yeah, I got it. So roll, I'll just go through the names. Jay, sorry, is there an echo? I have a bad echo.
No, you're good. We got you.
Okay. Miss Manock, Lena, she told me she has a doctor's appointment. Mindy, I'm here. Yep, I see you. Ashley Scott, obviously. Ashley Mathis here. Anna Brooks, yes. Present. Thomas is audio only, but I see him. Present. Maggie here, and LaJoy.
I'm here.
Perfect. Thank you.
Great. So the team will be able to take action if a quorum is present. Kimberly, is there a quorum present?
Yes.
Great. All right. Now we are going to proceed to the action items, which is the approval of our agenda. And this was provided. Copies are here on the screen. Are there any changes to our agenda today? Looks like our discussion items are going to be continuous improvement plan, deep dive, the spring 23 to fall 23 growth. And then Ina and I are going to give a debrief of the GOTeam Summit that we attended on September 23rd. And then Jay, also, I don't know if you want to add this, but Ina and I were both at the Sutton event. And also there was the board meeting forum last night too. So happy to.
Yeah, and I was thinking that we can take some time during the principal update and I can call on you to give me an update on Sutton as well as the board meeting. And then, yeah, we can use that during the principal update. That's fine.
Okay, perfect. So are there any changes to this agenda, or may I have a motion to approve it?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as submitted.
All right, a second.
I can second it.
All right. Was that LaJoy? Sorry, I don't know, Kimberly, if you need to
Yeah,
record
I
that.
got it.
Okay,
Yeah, that was me. That's what it
great.
is.
And then all in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed, please say nay. All right. And looks like the agenda has been approved. Okay, so moving on, we're now going to review and approve the meeting minutes from our last meeting. The minutes have been provided, and I know, Kimberly, you said we wanted to make an edit on the minutes just to kind of clarify the funding with the extra funding with the EIP teacher. Is that how you say it? EIP?
I think it's
It's in there?
no, so we have to or I change the minutes. Does that make sense?
Got it.
So we gotta
Yes.
and so I think in the last meeting, so we had some extra, and obviously Jay can speak to the very specifics about this, but I think there was just some confusion that the ESOL teacher, the IEP teacher that got funded with the funds from the leveling that we did was for the benefit of the DLI program. And I think I just wanted to make sure that people understand that it's for the benefit of the ESLL students, the Hispanic students that are having difficulties with the language, which is, they're one of our subgroups. So
Yes.
Jay, you could speak it much more eloquently than I just said.
Right. Yep.
Kim, you are exactly right. Yeah, and it is for the ESOL students in DLI. The ESOL students that are not in DLI are served by a different ESOL teacher. So she is part-time servicing ESOL students. I think there's maybe about 5 or 6 of them in DLI.
Mindy, can you talk about just for a second what she does at the primary center up until around 11 o'clock?
Sure, I have her schedule right in front of me, actually. From like about 7:45 until about 10:15, she is working with EIP students, primarily in 1st and 2nd grade. And she also helps assist with some of the tier 2 and tier 3 students, also in 1st and 2nd grade. And then in the afternoon, she works at the main campus with the DLI students that are in 3rd, 4th, and 5th.
So the bulk of her schedule is pretty much aligned to the strategic plan in regard to serving our EIP, our early intervention students in reading and math. She's got a large caseload of 1st and 2nd graders. Then she has about an hour break. Oh yeah, they're not in DLI and they are not ESOL students. And then she comes.
Some of them, excuse me, Jay, some of them are in DLI and some of them may be ESOL. We did that, but it isn't funded through
It's
that.
not that
Like
model.
yes,
The kids just happen to need reading or math support in DLI.
Correct.
And then she comes to Maine where she really serves, honestly, less than 5 students in a push in DLI. And we did that because the students were getting pulled out too much for speech, for special ed, for EIP, for everything else in between, which was defeating the purpose of a DLI model. So she just pushes in to support them in there as opposed to pulling them out.
Great. Kim, do we need to come up with statements to correct or update the minutes, or you want us to summarize that?
Yeah, I think we can summarize that because I think the confusion was that like when up that had the DLI scores of Morris Brandon versus the other DLI programs in the other schools, if you just see that slide, you say, oh, well, look at our scores. Why would we need extra support in the DLI program? But the DLI program at Brandon is different than the DLI programs in the other North Atlanta clusters. So I'll just make a note of that. But then I also wanted to make sure that people understood that this person is,
also helping intervention at primary for other students that are.
Yeah, just equity is a big thing for me. And I just want to make sure that all parents feel equitable at our school, regardless if your student is in special ed, has an IEP, is in DLI, is not in DLI. So.
Yeah,
Sorry, I do think Kim, thank you for bringing up this clarification because I think it's really good and important. I think where the point about the scores or any like maybe disparity in equities around class sizes in the upper grades, and that's not anybody's fault, but that is still, I think it's gotten better. I think we're improving it because we made those smaller class sizes, but I think that's more I think we have to follow rules and check boxes about like if you're English language learner, you get support no matter where you are. If you qualify for EIP, you get support no matter where you are. Those kind of things. But I do think that is something that if we were to ever think about like how can we make things more equitable, I think the class sizes would be the thing to focus on, and we did. So I think we did a great job with that. But I just want to make that one little add on to what you're saying.
But do you mean like for third, fourth, and fifth grade? Because then it's the reverse, and it's the reverse.
Yeah.
I will tell you that as a DLI parent, it's the reverse in the PC. So like,
totally right.
It's
totally right.
Amazing in fifth grade, but as a current first grade DLI parent, it's hard because
no, you're totally right about that. You're totally right about that. But I think just when we were
the yin and the yang, the give and take,
it's the yin and the yang ring, like.
But just remember where we made that trade-off for DLI.
Yeah.
Yeah, so for sure. No,
that came in the form of Miss Park.
Miss Park, she's been great. She's been great.
And she has been, yes. I think that was a great use of funds, and it really served our DLI students well. And they are, a third of our population, or just about. I do want to say though, because the intervention is kind of my like where I find my day and where I live, and just speaking with our new hire who is fabulous. It is difficult based on the requirements of serving, because of our one-way program with DLI, and based on the requirements of serving ESOL students within that model. It is a huge strain on the school schedule and on the students pull in, pull out, this and that. And I think Jay and the GOTeam has done a great job of being a problem solver, but I would encourage this team to continue to push and for flexibility, and to continue to consider that equity piece, because you spend half your day serving 5 kids, and there's really probably another 15 that need you at the primary center. I think that is so important we serve those 5 children. It is utmost important to me. However, I would love to see a more creative solution that didn't require sacrifices in other areas.
And there is a solution. There is a solution. And other schools do this, primarily the two-way program schools, and that is to have your English side DLI teachers get ESOL certified. And if that's something that we want to write into our strategic plan, we can do that. That was something I wanted to talk about today. I know Emily Morehart is going through that right now. But we are asking our teachers to get gifted certified as well. So it's a lot of school, and it's a lot of additional work on top of it. But there is a way to solve that problem, and it is to have all of our DLI teachers have an ESOL certification.
I think that's an amazing solution. Yeah, thank you.
Problem solving.
So I'll just summarize all that, and if it's okay with everyone, I'll put that in the amended notes, and then but right now we'll need to vote first and a second, and then those will get posted.
All right, cool. So if Kimberly is going to add those edits and those clarifications, so may I have a motion to approve the previous meeting's minutes with Kimberly's adds that we just discussed?
Make the motion to move forward with approving the minutes with Kimberly's edits.
A second.
Thank you, Thomas. All in favor, please say aye.
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 All right. All opposed, nay. Any abstention? Okay. All right. All right. Moving on here, our first action item. Well, no, that was our second action item. So now we will move to the discussion items on our agenda. Which I think it's you, Jay.
That is me. So, in full transparency, we're gonna have to do. I follow what the Go team tells me to do. We used to have so much more flexibility with Go teams, which is okay. But the Go team gives me a PowerPoint that I need to complete and fill out. So we're going to go through a little bit more data. We're going to talk about our strategic plan and our continuous improvement plan today. And it's going to kind of hit up all three of these discussion, well, at least the first two discussion items. So we'll kind of put them into one bucket. So I'm going to flip over to this screen over here. Did anybody see that change out? All right, perfect.
Yep.
So again, in full transparency, it's a lot of numbers, it's a lot of data, it's a lot of yellow, red, blue, greens. However, it's all for a purpose because we have 2 more GOTeam meetings before our winter break. And the goal is to approve our strategic plan so we move into our budget season. We know what we are looking to fund. The strategic plan is really good until 2025. I like all of the 11 priorities. However, it's the action steps that need to be adjusted some. And I'll go through a little bit of that today. And I'm thinking that our next GOTeam meeting, in order to really dig into the work and make sure that everything is heard and done well, may need to be in person. So we can just kind of chart out if any changes need to be made, because we've got to get this in for a vote before we leave in December. All right. Believe it or not, it's only GOTeam meeting number 2. I feel like we've met like 50 times already this year, but GOTeam meeting number 2, and I've got records, so we are all good. Everybody's on here, so let's get started. Where we are and where we're going. This is a GOTeam slide, so take a chance to read it. I'll read it out loud, why not? Strategic plan is the guide for the work we're doing in the school. By monitoring the plan and ranking priorities, we can all work towards the common goals. Using the priorities in the strategic plan, the school leadership team developed a continuous improvement plan for the current school year. And we're going to talk about that CIP today. I actually did introduce some of that to you prior to this meeting, so it shouldn't be the first time you've seen it, but we take the strategic plan and we really kind of drill it down into what we're going to do this year. Remember, strategic plan is long-term, but what we're going to do this year to help increase our learning for all students at Brandon. Here's our timeline. This is where we're sitting right here. Utilizing current data, and the Go team will review and possibly update the strategic priorities. And before winter break, we're going to need to take action. Rank the strategic priorities, which we probably are going to do in our November meeting in person. I'm going to send the information out to you earlier, and we can sort of, what we did last year was we voted, and I tallied it all up and I brought it together. We can do it 2 different ways. I'll kind of figure out the best way to do it, but our next GOTeam meeting is only like 3 weeks away. It's not super far off. So we'll do that then, and then we'll be able to hit the ground running in December. Here's our discussion items. One of the things we talked a lot about fall to fall map data, where we were last year, where we were this year. Today, we're going to talk about where we were at the end of last year, map, spring versus fall, where we started. So you sort of have to think that each student kind of raised up a grade level. We got a bunch of new 3rd graders. We lost our 5th graders, or we got a bunch of new 2nd graders that took it because map is 2nd through 5th. So we're going to look at the the spring versus the fall map data today too. If you want to take some notes, feel free to. If you want to come off mute, feel free to. I know it's a lot of me just kind of going through slides, but I'll be sure to share these with you as well. All right, we know this is our current strategic plan. These were our strategic goals, the 5-year goals. Sorry, not 5 years goal. We set these goals last year. The strategic plan is a 5-year plan. Talks about by FY23, our Black and African American students scoring proficient or above on the EOG will increase from 3% from 40 to 43%. In math, 3% from 23 to 26. I'm happy to say that we met those goals for this year, so we can help to rewrite some of those as well. And then by the end of FY23, we talked about those grade levels showing a reduction in the extremely elevated 3 out of 6 grade levels and the best that we're giving right now. So at the end of this year, we're going to look to see if we can reduce those extremely elevated students. Right here is our 11 strategic priorities. Should be 11, yep. And then these are the action steps that are really, really important. And some of these will need to be adjusted. And I've got some feedback on that as well. I did want to jump kind of right into some of the amendments that I thought. This is just an example, and this is something that we're going to be able to do and kind of talk about at our next meeting. But for example, I'll show you 1A. 1 stands for increased student mastery in math, science, and social studies. One of the action steps we have is utilize the Eureka Math Curriculum resource in K-5. Well, we're not going to do that anymore, are we? So you can see that I amended it to utilize the Godot, Georgia DOE, Georgia Department of Education, math, scope, and sequence paired with the Envision Math Curriculum. That's an example of an amendment that we can do, right? For 1B, guarantee the effective delivery of Eureka Math by providing adequate time resources. Well, obviously, we need to adjust that to guarantee the effective delivery of Envision Math by providing adequate time resources and opportunities for staff to participate in ongoing PD. All stuff that we have done and that we still continue to need to do. We could keep going down, but these are just some examples. Some of them are good. I felt like didn't need adjusting. For example, 4A, hire and retain effective special ed teachers, implement progress monitoring, adequate resource block for eligible students. We did a great job on that. We need to continue to do that. We hired 7 brand new special ed teachers this year. So I think we're good with that goal. I like that goal. I think it aligns well with what we're trying to do. I'm just kind of bouncing around. You can probably read some on your own. Some other amendments: 5A, create targeted professional learning opportunities, focus on the implementation of wit and wisdom and guided reading. Well, I changed some of that to creating targeted PL, stands for professional learning opportunities, focused on our CIP, which is a continuous improvement plan, and strategic plan goals like math internalization. And then some PL I recommended that we do send our teachers to is complete reading series. SDI stands for specially designed instruction, which is something that any teacher that's not a gen ed teacher needs to be able to do. It's like what our special ed teachers do differently, or what our EIP teachers do differently, because it's like a prescription, right? Not everybody needs the same thing, and they need to be doing something different. So I added that in there. OG, Orton Gillingham, is actually an approved SDI, multisensory learning. It's something different that you can do for those students. So I added that in there. 6A was provide targeted professional learning opportunities, focus on IB, enhanced PYP. Good with that. We are still doing that. We're giving IB days. We sent a ton of our staff to an IB training at the end of the year. We're right around the corner to our reauthorization. So I wanted to keep that in there. But you can kind of slide down and see there's actually a couple more that unfortunately I didn't include down here on the bottom because I just kind of missed it. But this is more of an example. And something that we need to bring some notes to the table at our next meeting and just make any adjustments as a team in a room, doing a kind of an activity that I have planned out to get that feedback. You can see. Yep.
Is the IB reauthorization?
When
are we doing that?
So we're an IB authorized school, which means that we have been approved by the International Baccalaureate Association in Geneva, Switzerland, to implement this program and to make it our signature program. A lot of schools have to go through a process in order to be approved for IB. And we did that obviously many, many moons ago. But every 5 years, we have to continue to show the International Baccalaureate Association that we are doing what we are supposed to be doing, that is in line with IB, right? Inquiry-based assessment, global learning. One of the big ones is addressing the issues that IB brought to us over our last 5 years. So the last time that we had an IB reauthorization was right in the heart of the pandemic. And they gave us what's called MTBAs, matters to be addressed. And we have to take those matters to be addressed and make sure that we put a plan in place to answer those. Some of those were like, there's too much pullout. Like we don't need gifted. You can't separate your gifted kids from your non-gifted kids. IB doesn't think that's the best practice. So that's why we started getting our teachers gifted certified and going them through that so we could do more of the inclusion for gifted certification. We still do a little bit of pullout, but I could probably argue that with them. Sam has the whole matters to be addressed. So we need to make sure that a lot of it has to do with planning, scope and sequence. Transdisciplinary learning was a big one. Are we making connections between science, math, social studies, ELA, all of that? So we have to be able to show them that we took those matters to be addressed. This year is a self-study. So Sam is going to pull together probably our GOTeam, parents, students, and community members to kind of get their feedback on how our IB implementation has been. And that sets us up and that cues us up for next year's authorization visit. And then honestly, in January or February of next year, They're going to come into our building. They're going to fly in from California, and they're going to visit every single thing there is about Morris Brandon, every classroom, every teacher, every student, and we get our report. And that's how we get our funding through APS, through signature program funding, and making sure that we are still moving in that right direction. So it's kind of a big deal.
Yeah. So that's January, like this coming January, or
No,
January?
So this coming January, we'll start our self-study. That's more so on the school.
And then
And so Sam will do that. And then a following year, 2025, that'll be our 5-year, because we did it in 2020. So it's already been 5 years, which is wild. There's two main signature programs in APS, which is STEAM and STEM and NIB now. Right. All right, so I wanted to add some of these possible amendments so you can see. I'm going to send something out when the meeting is over, and we need to rank these strategic priorities. We can adjust them if we need to. However, it is supposed to be a 5-year plan. So I don't love to always adjust strategic priorities, because I do think we need to see those through those 5 years. But if something seems completely off, or like does just not fit with what we're doing now, we can adjust them. But we want to rank them, because that's where our funding is going to go. But we can add stuff in. I mean, if our GOTeam thinks that something is super important and it needs to be in there, that we have that discussion. These action steps can be adjusted a little bit, because we have changed some of those, and I don't mind. That was kind of what this slide was, because I don't really want Eureka sitting on there when we submit that and things like that. Okay, feel free to stop me with any questions, because I know I lose a lot of acronyms, and education, can be like that. Let's talk about our CIP. This is what sometimes it's referred to as a SIP, a strategic improvement plan. This year they changed it to continuous improvement plan. We actually just had our 2-month check-in the other day with my boss and her people who look through our data and take a look. This is kind of how it starts. If you are a title school, you have a lot more. Title I school, meaning you're receiving government, federal, local funds. You have a lot more data and a lot more forms to fill out. We don't get a ton of those federal funds through Title I. So this is basically our strategic plan, our continuous improvement plan. I'm sorry. So we went through, we kind of use our, since we have to do it over the summer, we use a lot of our milestone data to drive that. And then we do our CIP check-ins using map data. So a lot of this was done really right before the school year started. So we talked about our strengths, and I think this is not the first time y'all have seen the slide. I think I was able to show you another time. But we talked about our strengths. We saw a 4.1 increase in proficiency at ELA, which is awesome. We saw our African-American students grew 6% in proficiency, which was phenomenal. We had a 2% decrease in extremely elevated students on the BAS-BEST from, I don't know what the 6 to 4 is. I need to go back and look at my notes. 3% increase in the normal range. So we basically reduced our highly elevated and we increased our normal range students, right? Some of the challenges we know was around math. We saw a little bit over a 3% dip in math. Our African-American students had one of the largest drops in math. So did our Hispanic students, and then our Asian and Pacific Islanders. So our subgroups, all of them really equated to about 3% a dip in mathematics from last year. Our overarching needs, we have to put these in here: literacy, implementation and monitoring consistent framework with an emphasis on foundational skills. What that means is, are we monitoring phonemic and phonological awareness, the smallest sounds of words, vowel teams, vocabulary comprehension, the fluency, the basis of reading? But are we monitoring that in the upper grades when students read to learn instead of learn to read? That was the big thing for us, is we get a lot of new kids in, but we just jump them right into wit and wisdom. They miss all of the phonics instruction. Do we have a framework that can still do that? And in this plan, you're going to see that, yes, we're rolling out foundations, the phonics, to our 3rd grade, and we've already started rolling that out. Numeracy, consistent support, implementation and monitoring of the 5E framework. That is a new math term. We're jumping now into the new 5E, which is evaluate. God, I'm not even going to try and say all 5 of them, but every math lesson typically has a 5E, where you evaluate, you explore, you explain, and there's 2 other ones I can't remember, but it's really around now, how are we supporting our teachers with the new math? We're in a weird part where we had a decrease in math, and then everybody in the district now has a reset. So do we focus on kind of like the old program and what we were kind of doing then, or do we really kind of amp up what we need to be doing now with our new program? I think the good news is we're all on a level playing field this year. But our teachers, math is like that grieving process, and I think our teachers are now at the accepting piece, and I give them props for that because they really are doing a good job with rolling it out and planning and implementing it and creating PowerPoints, because what we are given to us by the state and by the district was not always sufficient for our students. So we had to do a lot of work around that. And then, of course, our WCI goal here, which Mindy is definitely a part of, at least the academic piece, because we were on a long call today around our new whole child and intervention support team that will be meeting once a week and discussing the triage of academics, behavior, and attendance and how they're all connected. And we meet once a week. We have student names. We come prepared. We talk about their best scores. We compare it to their tiered math and reading supports. We compare it with their attendance, and then we look at any behaviors and we find the best course of action for that. So that's kind of the WCI piece. Here's my problem statement. Yep, go ahead.
Just a question on the math, because I'm just like, how can we support our teachers better? Because like, not that I'm saying Eureka was great, but at least Eureka seemed to be like one program, one structure, and kind of laid out. For this, it just seems like the teachers are having to like fill in gaps all the time, because you'll get like them working on a Eureka sheet the one day and the next day they're doing something else. And I understand it's because you have to, but how do we support our teachers more? Because I'm feeling like, God, if I was a teacher, I would be overwhelmed with not just my normal planning, it's also on top of it. Now I'm having to create a whole math curriculum kind of from scratch.
You're right. I can defer to a teacher on this call. I know Lena's not on here, but maybe Maggie would want to talk, but I can just tell you what we've done at the school level. Please know that we have not just thrown them to the wolves. Our teachers
no, I'm just trying to figure out.
I got you. So I just want you to know that our teachers have had, they've had at least two planning days now that we have given them subs where they can come together and work on that. The good thing about Brandon, and I will tell you, is we have a lot of teachers on a grade level, which means we can divide the work up, which means that we have teachers that can create a PowerPoint. We have teachers that can plan for small groups. We have teachers that can plan the materials, and we have teachers that can pull the resources together. When I talk to other schools that may only have 3 teachers on a grade level and they're responsible for 7 subjects, it's a lot harder. I'm giving stipends. Like I could just give an example that Miss Lucky Johnson in kindergarten is a rock star instructional teacher, and she's earning $1,500 for creating PowerPoints for her team. So just little things that I can do along the way to help supplement the teachers, to help give them more planning time. We did host all of the elementary school instructional coaches at Morris Brandon at the start of the school year. They came together, planned, and shared resources. Brandon kind of walked away with like, hey, we've already got a pretty good system now because we've been getting ahead of it. And it was more so like other schools were like, hey, we need you to drop your PowerPoints in the drive because our teachers are using them now. So, I will say it's a lot on our teachers, but we really are trying to support them at the school level. From a parent perspective, that may be another issue, but I do hear you.
I mean, I just want to give feedback to the AP, for APS, like you changed this, and Eureka wasn't great, but next time because there aren't they doing to middle school next year? I forgot what it is. Isn't it middle school that?
Sorry, I want to chime in real quick. Kim, first of all, thank you so much for bringing this up. And I think that the best thing you can do as a parent is to continue to bring it up, because it is something that we're working through. And looking ahead, they are adopting a new ELA program next year. So that means that this year, I guess, we would be looking at it. And I think that what happened, I think one of the things that we could do as a GOTeam is to be more prepared for that. I think we all last year really tried to show up and engage and look at the resources they provided us, and we tried to weigh in. And for any of us who are on here, if you're like me, you probably felt like it was a little like, whoa, this is fast. What am I looking at? What are we trying to decide here? And we all did the best we could with it. So I think that trying to look ahead to that ELA adoption and say, okay, what have we learned from this math adoption? And what do we want to do differently moving forward? Because I can tell you right now as a teacher, imagining being in my second year of math with this and then also doing it for ELA seems like a really daunting task. Math has been a really heavy lift. And and I think the one thing we can improve on, I think there's a lot of good things happening around the building. I think the one thing we could improve on is everybody's creating wheels. And I just wish we had it feels like if everybody's creating wheels, why can't we all just create one? Like, why can't we create one wheel together and then share that? And I think that's the tricky part. That maybe that's more of an internal conversation that we could be having, but as a staff. But yeah, so I think that one of the big problems that we ran into, well, we don't talk about it now, but once we do start looking at ELA and once we get to weigh in again as a GOTeam, I think we can have more conversations reflecting on what happened this last time and what we could do better as we move into that next phase, I guess. But I think the feedback that what you're saying, I think sharing that during that process would be really helpful, because I do think it's good. I really appreciate the fact that you brought that up, because I think it's important. It's one thing when we say like, this is really hard, and it's another thing when parents are like, wait, we care about that too. I think that gets,
yeah, I think all the parents feel like that. We see you guys toggling and, you know, you're given the directive from the district. So,
and
is there,
sorry,
foundation that could help fund anything math supplemental help wise? I don't know. That's a PTA question, I guess.
I don't know if we need more resources right now. I think what's hard is and I gave this feedback at something that I went to, a district thing, where I said it was really hard when we adopted Eureka, because it was like learning a new language, and now it feels like we're learning 2 new languages at the same time and trying to figure out which word's the best word to use at every moment. And so I don't want to throw in another resource. That feels like learning a third language right now. But I hear what you're saying, and I appreciate that sentiment of like, what can we do? How can we support you guys? I don't know the right answer right now, but I do think that there's but I'm happy to hear that you guys see it, care about it, and want to support us. And I think that we can have more conversations, I guess, as a staff, and start saying like, what would make, now that we've been doing it for a little bit, like what would help make this better and smoother.
I just think their process was just not, like, they had a great long process on their side of like, and then it got to the point where like, okay, well, you have 1 day. Oh, but by the way, we don't have all the materials printed and you have to give feedback. And it was just and then it's not like the whole program curriculum where it's like, okay, day 1, here's you do this. It's more of, dude, I'm in a meeting.
You know what? Our cluster rep, is it Enna?
Yeah, Ina. Yep.
Ina, I'm sorry, Ina. Ina, I think that this is a great perspective. If you could elevate this at the cluster level.
Yes, I've been taking notes.
I feel like that would be a great platform for this.
If we support Ina and give her the things like the assurances that we want to know, like, what exactly does it have? What materials will we get? Those, if we kind of proactively ask for that information before a decision is made, I think we'll go in a little bit more informed than we did last year.
Yeah, and
all right. Yeah. Awesome. I do want to say just a couple quick things. Fast is we adopted a new curriculum in the middle of an administrative transition, and a lot of people have moved on. You know, it was a weird transition. That's one thing to note. Number 2 is DLI played a major role in this, and I love DLI. I do. Our DLI parents typically speak up the loudest sometimes, and when it came to Spanish resources, sometimes that trumped maybe other things. I'm not sure, but I just know that DLI was very involved in the process. When you talk about ELA, you're not focused as much on the Spanish portion piece because it's going to be taught on the English side. And then also, from my understanding, knock on wood, cross your fingers, Wit and Wisdom is going to be one of the 3 vetted curriculums. And that is something that I have potentially heard through because it has high leverage impacts. The last thing I'm going to say, we have to be rooted in data. We all just need to take a deep breath and let's see what the data tells us on our winter map assessment with math. Let's see what our GMAS data looks like. We can always voice it, but let's see how our students performed after 5 months of instruction too. All right, I'm going to keep rolling. We got a lot to get to. This is a lot. I'm not going to go through it all, but I want to show you what the problem statements and how we do the 5 whys. It's a protocol you do. Why something leads to something else, leads to something else, leads to something else. So much of this can be rooted in things that are outside of our locus of control. And we are always drilled down with, you need to make sure that you focus on what you can control. When we came out of the pandemic, I was like, why are subgroups going at different rates? Well, heck, we had kids online for a year and a half that weren't in school. Well, that's not in our control. Like, I could not put that on there. We came out of a 3-year, a 2-year pandemic. So we did why statements to come down with sort of what these bottom whys are. And these are things that as a school, we have to focus on. My leadership team, my instructional team. Identifying consistent ways to progress monitor early literacy data, kind of like I talked about. And I'm sorry, I don't know why that's cut off, but early literacy data at the upper grades, right? We get a lot of new students. How are we tracking them, outside of K1 and 2 in fluency? If they're not taking fluency, how are we monitoring that intervention data through those HMH platforms that is more feels like compliance than it is, instruction? For math, not an intentional plan to support teacher development. I felt like that was big. We looked at our data last year. We had a lot of new teachers. Honestly, our first year Brandon teachers probably struggled the most with Eureka. We started rolling out the new math program like halfway through the year anyways. And I think people's mind shifts like move from this year to the next year. So we felt like there wasn't a lot of support there. And then our other 5 whys came down to and this is different this year, but our care team and then an MTSS and then discipline kind of all operated individually, and now we want to bring it all back together. It wasn't always like that, but that was something that we saw. I'll spare you for reading all this, but I am going to share this afterwards. So if you have any questions, though, feel free to stop me. Now, these are action steps. These are stuff that we are putting into place and we are doing this year. If we are not doing them, they should not be on here. We did a CIP check-in literally on Tuesday, and we went through these action steps and talked about where we were. These are them right here. I wouldn't worry about the person responsible or the timeline or the method for monitoring, but notice there are percentages in there where the funding source is or what the APS 5 is. You don't have to worry about that as much because funding can be very fluid. Some of this is general budget, some of it's private funds. But these are the action steps. So if we're trying to increase our ELA growth for all subgroups and moving to 76%, these are the things that we feel like we need to do, right? Progress monitoring, early literacy skills, teacher capacity and professional learning, right? Talked a little bit around morphology. And I know Ms. Nails does a lot of this at the primary center around introducing that. And we're trying to do that at the main campus as well. Morphology is what is it, like the history of the word, right? Where it comes from. What are the Latin, Greek and Latin prefixes and suffix? What do those mean for students so they can really, understand the root of a word? And then monitoring the transdisciplinary model. And these are some of those steps. We have additional steps for our subgroup populations. And remember, subgroup, I hate that word, but we continue to use it. It's really a student group, but it's a subgroup is any group that's outside of our largest population, right? So these are some of the things that we do. Conducting regular data meetings, professional learning opportunities, especially as it relates to SWD. Those were our lowest performing students. SWD is students with disabilities. And that's always a tough one because you're dealing with students that not only need specially designed instruction, something different, but also have a psychological that might tell them they're not going to be proficient. They're going to grow in these areas, or we need to see progress monitor these areas. But when it comes down to reaching our goals in our in our CCRPI, that rating, when they look at the Georgia milestones, we get flags for SWDs, red, yellow, or green. Are they growing at the rates of other students that are like them? So we want to make sure that they are continuing to grow and getting those supports. And then coaching and feedback for teachers around that. I will tell you, we have done a lot of work around supporting our special ed teachers this year. And we're really trying to, because we don't want to hire 7 new ones next year. Did the same thing for math. You can see it right here. If we want to move to this percentile, 5% growth, by doing these 3 action steps, pretty similar, but you saw them on the other page. These are the timelines, some of the monitoring, method for monitoring. Okay. A lot of this stuff we've done, none of it is complete. APS 5, we're still rooted in those 5 evidence-based instructional practices: data, curriculum instruction, personalized learning, whole child support and intervention, and curriculum instruction. See, I still know this. We always have for our subgroup population what we can do. Okay, notice how you're seeing special education, ESOL are language learners. Okay, these are the people that are supporting these special populations. CELT is our special ed lead teacher. We put half of our funds, half of our reserve into hiring another 0.5 CELT. So we actually have 1.5 special ed lead teachers. So those monies are going to those special populations. We know we hired an intervention teacher. We know she's part-time ESOL teacher. Internalization, so building their capacity through PL, and then SWD instructional plans. That's a big one. This is a really, really hard one, but it's around kind of like how's our co-teaching model? How are our 2 teachers who never knew each other, who are both brand new to branding, going to come together and be effective co-teachers? And it is not easy. And I had a great PL on it yesterday at my principal meeting. But what are we doing to monitor that and doing to support that? The big one is that SDI, that specially designed instruction or tiered activities that's on there. Of course, we have our CIP is our last goal. These are some of the things that we put together to reduce our 3 out of our 6 grade levels from our best in the fall. So what are we going to do? Well, we created shared responsibilities. That helps with behavior. That helps with expectations. Reviewing BAS3 best data to determine who the children are. Obviously, that's part of our goal. We need to be able to do that. And then we got to build our teachers up. Can they get restorative practice, conflict resolution, any types of those behavior interventions or things that our teachers can do at the tier 1 level in the classroom before it comes to myself and ultimately Mindy, right? Who moves our kids from behavior tier 1 to behavior tier 3 if it's not working. Additional steps for our subgroup populations. These are very similar to our Gen A because I think it can be beneficial to kind of everyone. But this one also has to do with our drilling down to case manager and using our paraprofessionals to help support those students. So we sort of have that one person for every child that can be responsible for that. And then we do have a family engagement goal. I put that in there. We didn't talk a ton around that, but I know Ashley loves family engagement, and so do I. And I wanted to make sure you saw this because these are our goals. And Ms. Durant and Ms. Gillum and Ms. Topper and myself are really focused on these 3 things. And I'm just going to tell you what they are because they're still in progress. But designing and sharing 3 educational resources for parents to support learning at home. We do have a family engagement newsletter now that comes out. We get on our school buses, give them to kids, have them take it home to their parents. We've been doing that this year. We've already had 2 editions, and it's great. It's creating a safe and affirming learning environment in one location at each building where parents can come in. If you look, we have a Be-Lessing closet in the classroom at our main campus where parents can come in and they can meet with a teacher. They can meet with our social worker. They can get clothes. They can get food. So kind of having that space in the buildings that parents feel comfortable in. And then we have to obviously look at our survey data because APS puts out a lot. AMP Up is coming out soon. That's the APS equity survey that goes to parents, students, and staff, students in grades 4 through 12. And then our parents and our staff will take that as well. And then we're in the midst of our Georgia climate survey. And I need all my GOTeam people to do this. It's been running in the B-mail. It'll be there all year, but everybody needs to take our climate survey that goes to Georgia DOE and ultimately gives our school a climate score. We always want to be a 5-star school, but I don't think we've ever been a 5-star, not since I've been here. It's always been 4-star, which is great. 5, I don't even know how to get to, but I want to. So everybody takes that and we really look at that data as well. So those are our 3 goals. What are we going to do? Here they are right here. And we're very lucky to have an awesome social worker, counselor, and an assistant principal to help lead some of these efforts with the APS Family Engagement Department.
Jay, what's the survey called again? If
It's
we need
called
for people to fill it out.
It's called the Georgia Department of Education Climate Survey. It should have been running in the email. I actually made the teachers put it in their newsletters as well. So you may have seen the link in the newsletters. I need all my teachers to
fill it out. We need people.
Yeah, you may have filled it out. You can fill it out twice. It's not going to stop you from doing that. But no, I'm just kidding. But really, it doesn't have like any type of timestamp or like any like, like, hey, you've done this once before, which, somebody can go in there and kind of, rip us 7 times if they want to. But we just ask everybody to do it one time and be honest. And we want all of our parents to do that. We actually only need 15 parents to fill it out to hit the actual like quota. Because if you don't hit the number of people, you get dinged. So we need like all of our third, fourth and fifth, and then we need a certain percentage of our staff, which we're not there yet. I'm trying to get them all to take it, but they haven't all taken it yet. But they will. We have time. And then you really only need 15 parents. We already have about 90 parent surveys in there, which is great. But I put a lot of stake in that and I put it out to everybody because I want to hear from all of our families. And I think we can learn a lot from having more parents do that. We'll get all of our kids in there and we'll get our staff. But the parents are the ones that a lot of schools miss or only get a small amount of.
Okay, we can help push that for sure.
Awesome. I'm going to keep rolling. It's a big night tonight. Mindy's got a big night. Mindy, what do you have tonight?
I have the North Atlanta Marist game.
Ooh, I hope they win.
I hope they win too.
Right?
Yeah.
The starting center on North Atlanta, and they're 7-0. So give it up for them. They're playing.
Former Brandon student.
And he's the captain too.
I'll have to tell Oliver that because he's playing center in NYO. So he's pretty fired up about the Warriors. So we're going to try to go to the homecoming game.
Awesome. Thanks so much.
And I went to that Marist game last year. I think the final score was like 58 to something. So I'm looking forward to a little payback tonight. So keep me posted.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk about our spring to fall. We talked a little bit about our proficiency. I don't want to kind of beat a dead horse, but I want to show you our numbers. This was the spring of last year. We took this before the milestones in March to April of last year, and then we came back in the fall in August and took it again. Notice about a 13 student decline, not a huge jump, but that's because our 5th graders moved on and we brought up a few more kids. We're getting bigger at the bottom, but we're still thinning out at the top a little bit, and that's another goal. The good news is we kind of picked up right where we left off with ELA, because typically when you come in, you kind of see that dip again, right? You kind of see that drop, as you can see with math, just a little bit. The top is reading, the bottom is math. It's spring to fall, but you don't see super big gaps. You're not seeing huge dips in proficiency or performance. The big thing now is, what did 6 months or 5 months of instruction look like? August, September, October, November. Let's take MAP again I think it may be January, if not December. I don't know the window, but we want to see what that MAP data, that math data looks like. But this does give our overall proficiency, and we're right at 62%, and we want to grow that for math, as we're right around 70%. There's about 8% higher for reading, but we know we want our goals to do, because those are the winter one is a really good indicator of how we do at the end of the year. It has a really high correlation. And I just want to remind everyone that our goals are, where was our goal on here? Here, you can see them at top, 76% for literacy and 74% for math.
I don't know if it's really important, but this year we did take math later than we ever have before, about 2 weeks later. And this year we're taking math again for the winter a little bit earlier. So we'll take it at the end of November, first week of December. So that growth, although I still believe in our kids and I think they're going to be great, it's a little bit of a shorter window this year.
It is shorter, and you don't always see a ton. I do know, like, we would always pick up with math and we would be a little low, and then we'd be a lot higher on milestones because we still had like 2 months of instruction and we hadn't even hit like fractions up yet. And so I like to look at the reading data more than math. But with so much talk around math, I'm hoping that we can get something that we can take away with. Don't forget that 2nd through 5th grade takes math. Focusing on the beginning learners, even though we were a lower proficiency, we did drop our beginning learners in math. So we have a lot of room for growth. The bread and butter is these yellow kids right here, this 28%. Can we move them this way and not this way? Can you all see my mouse? Okay. Move them this way and not that way. That's the goal. We're getting a lot of new students. I want everybody to know that. I was going to give that in my update. We had 11 kids start on Monday. If we hadn't done those reduced class sizes, we would really be hurting right now if we did not add multiple teachers to those grade levels.
All
11
students.
All the grades. We had not 5th. We had a couple fourth. We have a lot of third coming in. We got a lot of first and second, and we continue to get kindergarten. And these are kids that are coming to us traditionally are behind, need remediation services, coming in to move into our school system to get something a little different or a little better. And I hear that from parents all the time. So you know, when you get students that come in that have not been at Brandon, it's a whole different challenge, right? Like foundational skills. What can we get them? They may not be proficient, but can they grow more than kids that are like them other places? So yeah, we had 11 new kids that started Monday. We're at 905 now.
Wow, that's
Jay,
great.
Jay, is that within APS moves, or are those families moving into Atlanta from somewhere else?
Great question. A lot of Fulton County, a lot of South Atlanta, Southwest Atlanta. I can even name the elementary schools. A couple from AP, not really APS, not really APS, to be honest with you. We had a couple kids that moved from Jackson Elementary Zone, but there are still students that need additional supports as well. But it's mostly DeKalb County and Fulton County.
We did have some out of state though, I think.
Yeah, we do get a couple from out of state. I think
I
this
think-
big influx that we got though on Monday was literally we had one student come from Puerto Rico, but outside of that, it was all and a couple from Cobb County, right up in Vinings. You go a little bit north, it's not far from us, but there's a school right up there. So we get Fulton County, DeKalb, and Cobb typically. Great question. Let's keep rolling. I want to show you spring to fall subgroup comparisons. Take a look at reading. Really strong data from spring to fall. I mean, again, our reading data, our teachers are really doing a great job. Our Asian students, by the way, the gray line is the district average. Okay, just in case you're curious. That's the district average. So we are performing above the district average with everything except for our white students, surprisingly, right?
It looks like we hit it in the fall though.
We did right around there, right around in the fall. So that's good. And you can see with the exception of our two or more races, and I can't hover over it to tell you how many students we have, but if they're on here, we have at least 15, or they wouldn't be showing. So these will count as categories for our CCRPI, our school ranking. They're going to be looking at subgroups that are Asian, Black or African American, Hispanic, two or more races, white, and special ed. Special ed's not on here. So you can see that where we left in the spring and where we came back in the fall, the proficiency was a little bit higher, with the exception of Hispanic and two or more races, right? And we're hoping to grow that back up. That's just this is no indication of teaching. This is just how the kids came in the fall based on where they left in the spring. Remember, we had 115 fifth graders leave, and we had 135 first graders move into second grade and take this test. So that's kind of the new numbers. You're losing fifth and you're gaining second because this test is second through fifth grade. Okay. Math here. Little bit of a different story, but still not totally off. What I love most is that our largest subgroup outside of our white students are our 222 African American students who came in at 10% higher for reading and still came in at about 4% higher in math. And these kids are going to grow and they're doing a great job. Teachers are as well. But you can see some of the other Hispanic or two or more races. Those are students that came in a little bit lower than when we left. Okay. And I don't have the overall numbers. Our two or more races, it's not like 200 kids. It's something like 18 to 20 students, for example. All right, fluency, just want to talk about this because it's written in our CIP. This is given to pre-K, kindergarten, and first graders. This is the test that's read to them via headphones because they can't quite take that MAP assessment. The top is the spring. I'm sorry, the bottom, we'll start with the fall. The bottom is the fall of this year. Notice how many kids took it. That's 300. I try to put the numbers. 37 students or 10% felt they were flagged for reading. That's in kindergarten first. That's in pre-K, K, and 1. So out of a lot of kids, out of all of these, 37 of them need supports in reading, like immediate flags. Mindy probably knows these kids off the top of their head. They're probably already getting services. Early identification is key. She knows that. 76% of our students, are 382 of them, have those foundational skills, okay, or foundational skills or foundational beginner skills. And then 14% or 50 of those pre-KK and first graders are already on oral reading. Like they don't need to take this assessment anymore because they can read on their own. So you talk about kindergartners that came in, you don't see a ton up here, that are already ready to read and probably take the MAP test outside instead of oral fluency. Now, if you go to the top, this is the spring of last year. We have a lot less students taking this assessment than we do at the fall. It's because some students, and I put the note up here, they move in to taking the MAP. They don't always take the fluency. In the spring, if they don't need to take the fluency, we give them the MAP assessment, a different one. So that's typically why there's less kids. But you can even see how much a year of instruction does for students reading. 164 of those, whatever total that took the test, are now oral reading, and we want to see that and show that. So this is the great example of a beginning of the year and then an end of year and how they grow. Questions? Can we keep rolling? Because I know it's a lot. We did a little bit of the notice and the wonderings. If you want to share any of this, we can. We did some of this at our last meeting, but again, we're going to do this at our next GOTeam meeting in person. And we're going to do a chart. We're going to make sure our strategic priorities align. But does anybody have anything they want to share off of any of the data? I know it was a lot. I don't want to quiet you. Give you the time to speak. Okay. Strategic planning is a little quote they put in there. This is GOTeam. This is not me putting a quote into our slide, adding an extra slide so you can read a quote. But it's a good quote. It's applicable. Where we're going, go ahead and read it. I'm going to send this out so you can preview it. Like we said, you need to take a Friday or Saturday night and sit down with a glass of wine and go through these PowerPoints again and take notes. I did want to show this. Somebody nominated me for this. I don't know if you saw this, but yay, GOTeam Award.
Congratulations.
Thank you. What this means is my Saturday night has now been taken by a 2-hour meeting, a 2-hour banquet downtown somewhere.
Oh no.
I never go to these things, but I'll be going this year. So yeah, this is great.
That's
that our
awesome.
GOTeam has just done great work and collaborating and working together. So awesome for that. We were recognized for that. So I think that's awesome. So I just wanted to kind of put that in there. And then thank you. And that's kind of it. So I'm going to hand it back over to Ashley. I'm going to stop my share so you guys can all see, and then I'll let you move into a public comment. If you want to follow the agenda, I'll pull that back up as well. And I just want to remind everybody that the link is posted in the chat. If you want to go ahead and fill it out now, we'll allow you to do that.
All that great data. Thank you guys for all the amazing work you do. I mean, running a school is like running a small country. It's just amazing seeing all the insights and everything. And it's awesome. So Ina and I just wanted to give a quick update. We attended the GOTeam Summit on September 23rd, which was held at Phoenix Elementary. And I was kind of like dreading, oh, my Saturday, I was going to this summit, but it was actually like really cool and I enjoyed it. So, Ina, I don't know if you felt the same way, but, we sat at a table with a kindergarten teacher from Benteen Elementary, and I can't remember the other one. And, it was a really diverse group of mostly it was all GOTeam people, but we got to hear from Dr. Battle, which is the first time that I had met her. And she didn't really talk a lot, but interviewed, which I thought was really powerful, a panel of students from 5th grade to 12th grade. And just talking about, what they like to see in their schools, what they need. There was a lot of talk around just like building better relationships between, communities and students and administrators and teachers. And it was interesting to see their panel. And then we heard a panel from 2 other superintendents that use the charter system, one in Calhoun City Schools and one in Dublin City Schools, and just different ideas that they had brought through the flexibility of the charter system and the GOTeam. A couple takeaways. I mean, not that these school districts are definitely different than ours, but just, using funds to use an old bus that they had to create an early learning center for their community.
Did reading to like pre-K kids, so when they come in, they're not so far behind.
Yep. And then I thought it was cool too. This is more for the upper grades, but the Dublin City Schools had, instead of like hiring a full-time teacher in like the upper grades, they hired a like a specialist. Like I think they used the example of like a cosmetologist or like a machinist or some kind of trade, that isn't an educator, but that they could use that, professional community person to come in part-time and, teach the trade or whatever it is in their high school. And they use their funds to do that. And they didn't have to fund a full-time teacher, but just kind of support, interests or, trades vocations within their community. I thought that was just sort of an interesting concept to sort of fund part-time, specialists that, they needed to support their community. And I just found it interesting too, just the flexibility that we have with the charter system. And then Ina attended a couple sessions in the afternoon. I had to leave, but anything, Ina?
I attended a breakout session. It was about connecting families, and basically the premise of that was just empowering both the educators and parents to like foster a relationship with the school community, just to help the kids. They gave us our family engagement manager, which is David Galban. That's our family engagement manager for the North Atlanta and the Midtown cluster. They also talked about FELT, which was what Jay was talking about with Miss Durant. Some of that went into family engagement leadership. That was the first session. The second session I went to was about personalized learning. And our educational tech specialist is Timothy Farmer. And they went into Core 4 and how they're rolling that out over the next 2 years over the different schools. And it's with Core 4 is reflection and goal setting, targeting instructions, flexible pathways for kids, flexible pathways and paces for kids, and then collaboration and creativity with the kids to help them create, kind of be the guide of their own learning. They talked about doing breakout groups. They also talked about technology and some of the technology and safety that they're installing on some of the devices that the kids have to make sure that the teachers are able to kind of monitor what the kids are doing while they're in certain classes. They gave us a couple resources. Securely is SECURLY, and it's kind of like an internet safety type of thing where you can kind of.
And I'll just piggyback. You're right.
Yeah.
It's called Securely, and our teachers
Okay.
open on their screen, and they
Yes.
basically have like what your screen looks like right now with all of our
Mhm.
faces. It literally has every kid's computer screen, and they can see exactly what the kid is doing. And then I get an email. I love it. It comes right to me if little Timmy Tommy has Googled something that's inappropriate. And we go right down there to the classroom and we talk to Timmy and Tommy. Now, the firewall in our building is so intense that like you can't get to anything anyway. But if you ever brought your Chromebook home, we would still have access to that. So it's really cool to be able to see what kids are always working on. And like if anything is Googled or searched that could be dangerous or a warning or something along those lines, we get an automatic update. So just piggyback on that.
Yeah, so that, and then a couple other things that they gave us is just some resources on YouTube, parenting in a digital age, just to kind of help parents understand what the kids are able to and to not do on the internet, just so that they have that type of information.
Did it show you how to delete YouTube Kids? Because I would love to do that.
They did not, but those were the two breakout sessions that I went to, and they were very, very informative.
Yeah, it was good. It also just, all of the different schools are so diverse. Everyone needs something different. So to get to meet other people, but also just, which is the cool thing about APS. It's, City of Atlanta, really diverse district. So it was good, I thought.
Yes.
All right.
And then, Anna and I,
Sutton.
did you want us to talk about this really quickly? Yeah, last night they did a prospective parent night, led by Dr. Merriweather and Paige Deese and her husband Jason Deese and Mary Stewart Iverson. Did she put it on too? Just to kind of talk to parents about transitioning. And, we know going into fourth, fifth grade, you have a lot of choices in this part of Atlanta and, why Sutton is different. I thought they did an awesome job. I mean, it was really well done. They showed a video. Dr. Merriweather just, went through, facts. They had submitted questions. They had a panel of two parents, Keisha Prentice and another family whose kid was there too, that they asked questions of. They went through safety and security curriculum, and Jen McDonald, our board rep, spoke as well. And just, the biggest thing I took away from it was that, going to Sutton, having, all of the opportunities that you might not have at a private school here. And that I think Jen said something like, our kids that go through the whole track, we want you to stay from kindergarten to North Atlanta. And it's important. And we're building a community here. And, the kids that graduate and, leave our cluster, we could drop in any metropolitan city. And because they've gone to school in such a diverse, cluster here, they'll know and be able to adapt anywhere. And I just thought that was really powerful. And I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, and another thing that Dr. Merriweather brought up that was amazing was the close relationship that he has with the North Atlanta principal and how they kind of collaborate together and they work together to make sure that the kids at Sutton are prepared for what's going to happen when they enter into high school. Another event that took place yesterday outside of that was the NAPS, the North Atlanta Parents for Public Schools, had an event with the Board of Education candidate. They had a candidate forum. So if anyone was unable to go, the whole forum is actually on the NAPS Facebook page, and the majority of the candidates, because we have quite a few board seats that are up for election, this coming up election. So if you'd like to know more about the candidates, those are there on the NAPS Facebook page. The entire forum is there. Also NAPS news, a lot of things. We basically just focused around North Atlanta homecoming. We here at Brandon, we made the banner and that'll get hung up that we did in support of the of North Atlanta. And also there are also a couple events coming up next month that NAPS is putting on, and it's going to be a mental health in schools program, as well as a navigating special ed in 504s, and those will happen in November. There's not a date yet, but they will happen in November. Yeah, that's all I got for that.
Awesome. Any questions on that? All right, so I just have one last announcement that our next meeting is November 9th. And Jay, we are going to do that in person. I think that's a great idea.
I would like to do that in person, main campus, and we'll do that. I'll have a room set for us.
Awesome.
Sorry, Ashley. And then just on the training I sent out, when I sent out that email,
yes.
What the GOTeam sent me. So don't get scared if there's a red by your name. It's just the status, and you have a while to do the trainings, especially if you're new. And sometimes they don't give you the right login information and you have to go back to them. So they're all online. I don't know when the next live orientation will be, but it's like a misnomer because it's online too. They just have it on certain days. So just
Oh, I
you
did
can
both.
call.
I did the live one.
Yeah, like that's great if you've done it. If you haven't done it, just don't freak out about it that you haven't done it. Just they will come back to us and they will keep on telling me, hey, so and so did not do it. So just kind of do it as you can. But if you have any issues logging on to the website, you can email me and I can forward it on, or you can just email that GOTeam email address and they'll help you with whatever.
Awesome. Quick principal report from my end is nothing, not too much, but just giving quick plugs for, we're excited about Fun Run this Saturday at the Primary Center. It's going to be a ton of people. Ashley Mathis picked it up last year, so they got big shoes to fill. I know we've been planning it. I've seen everything, so we're excited around that. It's a whole new thing how it's now tied to the hives, because we are having our first hive rally tomorrow, so it's going to be pumped up for all of our kids. I'm excited to be fully staffed now with all of our full-time teachers. We do have our art teacher here. She's been awesome. She's been teaching our 3-5 kids. They've already started some clay work. So that's good to go. And I just want to give a quick update. I think you know that I've been part of the Distinguished Principal Fellowship, and we had our first trip that I went to right before fall break. And I had to miss the last 2 days of school, but I got to go to New York with 72 principals from around the country and just kind of like network and hear from people. We stayed on East 42nd Street. We heard all of the old con fellows who just wrapped it up. There was 4 APS principals, Springdale Park and a few other schools. And they presented their projects with their allies, and that'll be me in 1 year, but I got to hear them. And then they all left, and it was just our 72 principals, and we took a 3-hour bus ride to Gettysburg, where we heard around we really visited the battlefields and really studied the decisions that the leaders made that really influenced our world, our country, our lives. It was really cool. I was there from Thursday to Monday. We're going to be going to con every 2 months, whether it be in December, we go back to New York, then we do Dallas, then we go to LA one time. And it's all paid for through this fellowship. But it's really, really great to hear from principals and what they deal with and what they struggle with in schools and major metropolitan cities across the world. New York, that has 900,000 students in Metro City, hearing from these principals and what they have to deal with is amazing. Everything from immigration, right, to teacher unions. And I will tell you, well, I don't know about the teachers, but we are lucky that we don't live in a state that has these big teacher unions, because you cannot do anything at a school level. And it's very crippling for admin and for principals and for schools if it's not working properly. And I know teacher unions definitely play an important role. And I hope our teachers feel heard and valued, but it makes it a completely different school system. Tampa was there, Florida, they have teacher unions. Then we heard from principals in Denver, principals in San Antonio. And I talked to a principal whose school is closing. They're closing 20 schools in San Antonio and merging them. And just to kind of hear what other people have to deal with and how it relates to us. But I reflected on kind of how lucky we are to be at Brandon and be in Atlanta and have flexibility of our budget and be able to control our strategic plans at the local level. That APS, honestly, it really is getting a lot of things right. And I noticed that from kind of talking to other people. I'm looking forward to continuing with it. So I just wanted to kind of give that update to GOTeam. So it was cool.
That's awesome.
I'm happy you went to that. And I love hearing all that insight. I come from Chicago, where there's
Chicago was there too.
Chicago has a huge teacher union. So just like being on
Right.
the GOTeam and just seeing how things are different here, I'm happy you got that perspective.
Yeah. Yeah, there was Chicago there. There was 2 or 3 principals from Chicago. One of the guys I really connected with too. And the hope is that we can visit each other's schools. And that's kind of the goal when we're done, is like, I want to go to Chicago. He wants to come to Atlanta and kind of come to Brandon and kind of see how we do things here. It's really the only fellowship that's around for principals. Like there's nothing else. There's not a lot of supports in this role. So it's pretty cool. There's nothing else like it. So it's exciting to be a part of it. So yeah, Chicago was definitely there. All right, Ashley, I will let you close it out with some public comment or anything else you need to say.
Public comment. Do we have anyone that that would like to make a public comment? Do we have anything in the Google form? Okay. All right. Any more announcements? I think we did all our announcements. So I think we've reached the end of our agenda. And may I have a motion to adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion to adjourn the
Anyone?
meeting.
I'll
Thank
second,
you,
Mindy.
Chris. A second.
I'll second that motion.
All right. Please raise your hand if you are all in favor of adjourning the meeting.
Aye.
Aye.
All right. All right. Meeting is adjourned.
Thank
All right,
At
everyone. I'll
what
send a
time?
recap email and I'll see you in
4:50.
person in a little bit, okay? Have a great one.
Bye.
Thanks, guys. Good luck, Mindy.